My father started out, he was a mechanic. And he worked for International Harvester in Green Bay. And then he got tired of that, so he started getting into carpentry work and construction work. And he had his own business. He did carpentry and built homes and did concrete work. So I was pretty much on my own. I would have preferred it better if I could have been with my parents more. I didn't spend very much time because they were on the go all the time. And at that time, the shipyards were very busy. Yeah. And it took up a lot of our time, which I didn't do. So I missed a lot. My father only went to third grade and he quit school. And back in those days, he could get away with that. And so he never really built school up to me. And I miss that now because I realize I didn't get out of it. But I think more anything like sports, like woodworking or something like that. Anything I could do with my hands.
Like hands-on.
But as far as I was school, like geography, with geography back then, and English. I didn't really like English. I did like stuff. And back in those days, you had a one-room school, and I went to that one-room school with that one teacher for 8 years. So, as you can see, it probably didn't go too well. But we had a sub come in one time, and she worked with me, and I really liked her, and I really worked hard to do something for her. But I played on the basketball team for East High School. I was 4'7", 83 pounds. I played football too for 2 weeks. I almost got killed. I was a halfback, and back in those days they had a halfback, a right halfback, a left halfback, and your fullback. And I was fast, which was good. But I get the ball and I go, and this one time I had the ball and I started running across, going for a touchdown. I thought, and I got tackled one this way and one this way. I mean, they just about broke me in two. And I can remember my coach, Ward Cuff, coming up and he said, Kennard, he said, you go back, and he says, you put on some weight, and he said, you come back next year. I said, I'm going back and put on some weight. You ain't never seen me out here. That's it. That was the end of that. That year I was supposed to go to the junior prom, and my date stood me up. A friend of mine's date stood her up, so we went together. I was 4'7" and she was 6'1". And we had a ball. We had more fun than anybody there, and I went out with her several times after that. But then I went into service and everything changed.
After the end of World War II, the United States, led by General Douglas MacArthur, pursued occupation of Japan. The United States was there for a few reasons. One was to enhance U.S. security from the former militant government. Another was to stop the spread of communism to the fragile country. The world at that time was split on political ideas. The USSR stood for communism while the US stood for democracy. Europe was in shambles, and as countries rebuilt, they turned to communism as a savior. The US military prevented this from happening with the full occupation of Japan, where it worked with its then current institutions and politicians to bring reform. General MacArthur's advisory council gave directions for the Japanese national and local authorities to enforce. The U.S. took land from wealthy landowners and redistributed the land to the landless. The U.S. helped rebuild Japan's economy, and even the Constitution was rewritten. It made large steps towards democracy by establishing women's rights and stating that the government was responsible for its citizens. The United States military set up teams scattered across Japan that monitored the enforcement of the new constitution. Japan had become an ally of America because it represented democracy in the Eastern world. The U.S. even sought Japan to aid it against the Soviets and communism in the Cold War. In 1951, the U.S. and Japan signed a peace treaty and a mutual security pact. The next year, Japan was free from American occupation and regained its sovereignty as a nation.
I joined the military in 1950. I was 18. I was short. And the Air Force would take anybody under 5 feet. So that's why I picked the Air Force. But later on in life, I found that the Air Force, actually for your education, the Air Force or the Navy, better ones, they give you a better education. I was stationed in Lockland Air Force Base, which was a training base. And at that time, your basic training was supposed to have been for 3 months. And because there was such a demand at that time, I only spent 13 weeks. Ellington Air Force Base in Houston, that's where I trained to be in a service. Take a job, and I got pretty good at that. And they needed somebody in the same type of work, so wanting to get out of Texas, I signed up for it, and I went about 125 miles down the road to College Station, Texas, and there I went into aircraft scheduling and maintenance. And I liked it a lot. I started out, they wanted me to be a truck driver. Well, my legs were too short. And you drive these big 6x6s, my feet couldn't touch the pedals. So after my first trip with that, I said, I gotta do something else. This is not getting it. So I got into production control, which was scheduling vehicles in for me, and working with man hours and things like that.
Did it ever get frustrating to keep moving from different things?
Did I get frustrated
from moving to different parts?
No, in fact, I kind of like to move. I like to be on the move.
Yeah. Did you like having friends from other countries?
Yes, I did. In fact, I found it quite interesting. Canadians, the Australians, I love the Australians. They're fun. And the Japanese were real great to me. I was a little worried about it when I first went over there because I don't know how they were going to accept us. But it went off great. They were much, and they were always asking for your forgiveness for something they didn't do. Their religion was more Buddhist. And I went to their temples a couple times just to see how it was. They were very polite to me there and showed me around. They had, they would kind of dress themselves up for their ceremonies. Kimonos, hairdos, and the men all wore black. Real, very, very colorful kimonos, big high hairdos and things like that. And it was fun to watch them work with their carpenter tools because they had very little compared to us. And the things they did with it was just immaculate. Their houses were mostly made of paper and sticks. And sliding doors were just they always reminded me like toilet paper put together on sticks. That's all it looked like. But they did really nice work. I had an alcohol problem when I came home. It caused me lots of problems. I went through 7 rehab stations before I finally kicked it. And I haven't had a drink since 1987. And I really enjoy that fact. And, I don't know whatever encouraged me to do it before, because I work with people now that have those problems, and I don't miss it a bit. Don't understand why I ever did it. At the time, there wasn't much work, and actually, I had wanted to stay over in Japan because I was going with this girl over there. She was the base commander's secretary, and a very nice person. And but my mother wanted me to come back just to try it. Well, you know, tell you, come back. There was no way she was going to let me go back over there. So I suppose I could have, you know, and I got into drinking and all that stuff. And things changed. It was hard because there wasn't work. A lot of my friends were in the service. Now, most of my friends were younger than me, and they were in, and I was out and kind of made new friends, which I kind of like. But yeah, you have a lot more understanding of people. It was for me. I can't talk for everybody else, of course, but that's the way it was for me. A lot of people had a lot of problems and things, you know, and you get into that a lot. And when I first, before I went in, I was kind of a hothead. I knew it all. Nobody's telling me what's good. And when I got out, I kind of thought about other people, how they thought. And it helped a lot. And over the years, as years went on, it even got better. And I worked for Westinghouse Electric Supply in sales. And as the years, I only worked there 3 years. And then I heard of another electrical supplier coming into Green Bay, and I went over there and applied for it, and I got the job right away. I was assistant manager there. I did just about everything, holding jobs. I hired some people, showed them what to do, pricing and selecting merchandise. Also, and I left there and I went to work in a factory, which I thought I'd never do. And I kind of liked it. I was doing things with my hands. I liked it. I went to work in a paper mill. I don't know my whole history. You're talking here all day. I went to work in a paper mill. I went to work for a machine shop where they work with metal. I did that for quite a while. And then things got a little slow, so I went back onto the sales field, electric supplies, and I traveled. I went as far as Upper Michigan, all through Green Bay, as far as Manitowoc. I like that, but then got pretty competitive as far as prices. We were getting a lot of foreign stuff, kind of hard to keep up with. And then my sister was working in Burlington at the glass company. And I said, is there any work up there? So she says, well, come on, where I'm working. You get an interview. Well, I came up, or down, I should say. I had an interview at 8 o'clock in the morning and went to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I stayed there for 27 years. Put hot and dirty work. I liked it. So that kind of told me what I could do and what I couldn't do. I had a feeling of completing something by seeing what I did. And I became a production supervisor. And I was that for about 9 years. I don't feel that they did what they should have done. You know, I feel that Bin Laden's who they went after, they never really got the job done. go into service, to start a war, go into service to protect our country. The war is the furthest thing from any service